Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're completely rethinking how we approach saltwater reef filtration. Instead of just focusing on hardware upgrades and getting bogged down in that endless debate over gear, we're going to shift our perspective. It's time to move past just buying equipment and start truly strategizing on how to build and maintain a thriving ecosystem.
Let's kick things off with a quote from Saltwater Reef Co. that perfectly busts a really persistent myth in the hobby. It says, "Selecting filtration isn't about finding the strongest equipment. It's about building a system that supports stable water chemistry." I love this because it reminds us that bigger, stronger gear doesn't automatically mean a better tank. Our reef inhabitants have incredibly specific sensitivities, right? So the absolute best filtration approach relies entirely on your specific tank size, your stocking plan, and honestly, the time you can realistically dedicate to upkeep. It's really all about smart, cohesive design, not just raw power.
So here's the roadmap for our builder's journey today. We'll start with the secret to reef stability, figure out how to understand your tank's bioload, break down the 3 stages of filtration, look at mastering nutrient export, and wrap up with exactly how to maintain, test, and refine your system over time.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the secret to reef stability. This is our foundation. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding what true stability actually looks like in a marine environment. The most successful reef setups, they focus on consistency. They're not stressing over hitting some arbitrary, short-term, perfect number on a test kit. Because, let's be real, chasing perfect numbers almost always leads to massive swings in chemistry. Instead, your filtration should be designed to help you maintain stable ammonia and nitrite levels, while just consistently and gently managing your nitrates and phosphates.
Moving on to Section 2, understanding your tank's bioload. This is your biological foundation.
Before you even think about picking out equipment, you absolutely have to estimate your specific bioload. And keep in mind, bioload isn't just a head count of your fish. It's their size, their waste, and, crucially, your coral feeding habits. Getting a handle on this dictates literally everything else. Why? Because a larger bioload massively increases the demand for effective biological filtration. Which brings us to why your feeding habits matter so much. Are you running a mostly light feeding approach or a heavy one? Nutrient-heavy feeding habits require incredibly strong, dedicated nutrient export strategies. And notice I'm emphasizing export strategies here, not just slapping on more generic filters. You've got to match the input of the food with an equally capable output mechanism.
Okay, let's look at Section 3, the 3 stages of filtration, or as I like to call them, the 3 pillars.
When you look at mechanical, biological, and chemical filtration, notice how these distinct stages completely complement each other. A truly complete strategy integrates all 3 of them seamlessly. Mechanical filtration clears the water and physically protects the other stages from clogging up. This paves the way for the biological stage to handle the real heavy lifting, converting toxic ammonia. And finally, chemical filtration steps in to target whatever is left over. They all have different but highly interactive jobs to do. But make no mistake, while the other stages are incredibly supportive, biological filtration is the absolute cornerstone of a healthy reef. In practice, chemical and mechanical methods are best viewed as supportive tools that you tailor to your specific goals. But without that biological bedrock, your reef simply cannot survive. For most reef keepers, biological filtration means relying heavily on live rock or maybe a mix of live sand and rock. This is because it naturally provides massive amounts of surface area and supports vital, complex microfauna. Now, as your tank matures, you might decide to add dedicated biomedia in sumps or external chambers just to increase that capacity. Just remember, if you do use extra biomedia, you must ensure good oxygenation. You really want to avoid turning those chambers into a detritus trap, which will definitely contribute to toxic nutrient buildup later on.
Now, as for mechanical filtration, it needs to capture detritus without starving your system of beneficial flow. Think of the filter socks in your sump. They improve water clarity immensely. But if they're neglected, those trapped particles just break down, and the socks themselves actually turn into a nutrient source, completely undermining that biological bedrock we just talked about.
Then there's chemical filtration. Think of this as a highly specific tool used intentionally for targeted problems. It is not a permanent magic band-aid. Activated carbon, for instance, is widely used to manage dissolved organics, and specialized resins can control things like high phosphates. But overusing chemical media is super dangerous because it masks what your water chemistry is doing naturally. Treat it strictly like a tool. Figure out what you want to improve, run it on a set schedule, and closely monitor the results.
Let's transition to Section 4, Mastering Nutrient Export. This is all about mastering the balance.
Look, a filter can only do so much to trap waste. To truly keep a reef healthy, especially in a system that's heavy on fish or heavily fed, you absolutely must export those nutrients out of the water column completely. To do this, you'll likely need to rely on strategies like a properly sized protein skimmer or maybe growing macroalgae in a dedicated refugium for natural nutrient uptake. You can also rely on controlled water changes to dilute the buildup or use targeted chemical media when things start to drift off course. Ultimately, the right combination is just the one you can run reliably without causing wild chemistry swings.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Maintenance, Testing, and Refining. Let's talk about refining your system.
You know, you can buy the absolute most expensive gear in the world, but undersizing your equipment or just straight up neglecting its maintenance is literally the fastest way to destabilize a reef. Sure, you need to ensure your hardware matches your tank volume and your flow needs, but equally important, you need to choose equipment that you will realistically clean and maintain on a consistent, reliable schedule.
By sticking to strict media replacement intervals, like swapping out your carbon and keeping up with your mechanical filter cleaning routines, you're establishing built-in monitoring checkpoints. This is huge because it allows you to catch invisible problems early, long before they physically show up as a massive, frustrating algae outbreak or suddenly stalled coral growth. So how do you catch those invisible problems? Well, you need to establish a robust testing framework. No single setup works perfectly for every reef, even if the tanks are the exact same size. You absolutely must use reliable test kits for ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, phosphate, alkalinity, and salinity. These kits give you the hard data on what is happening invisibly right there in your water column.
But hey, don't just stare blindly at test tubes. Use your own observation to tune your system. Look at what your tank is telling you. Watch your coral's behavior. Keep an eye on algae trends and monitor your overall water clarity. If nutrients are creeping upward, don't just automatically throw more filtration at the problem. Stop and look to see if maybe your food intake increased, or if your export methods are lacking, or if detritus is just accumulating somewhere in your rockwork.
I want to leave you with this thought to reflect on regarding your own setup. Is your filtration system genuinely building long-term stability, or is it just temporarily hiding the mess? By aligning your biological, mechanical, and chemical components with your specific bioload and your own personal maintenance capacity, you'll build an incredible framework for long-term success. So take a close look at your tank today. What are your corals telling you? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy reefing.